5-year, $170 million maximum extension. While the Sixers may have lost Jimmy Butler in free agency, they added Al Horford from Boston and now have their same starting big three of Simmons, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid. Earlier this morning on Get Up, Charles Barkley had this to say about the Sixers squad.
I wonder in Philadelphia who has the courage and the chutzpah to tell Joel Embiid, yo, man, you got to get in shape. I wonder if they have that person on the team or the person who has to tell Ben Simmons, yo, man, we just gave you $170 million. Can you please work on your jump shot? If those two guys improve their game, the Philadelphia 76ers, to me, are the clear favorite in the Eastern Conference.
All right, Charles Barkley said it right there. So, Ryan, back here with us in the studio, tell me, do you think the Sixers are title contenders this season?
Not a shot. Not even close. Have you looked at Milwaukee? Have you looked at the Clippers? Have you looked at the Lakers? The biggest problem is they couldn't keep Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is arguably one of the best top closers in the league. Ben Simmons, obviously, without a jump shot, and even if he improves a little bit, he's not going to be where you'd expect him to be at a playoff level. He's a baller, no doubt, but those are where you come into question in those late moments. Not to mention, who's the second best closer? When they had the run the year before, it was J.J. Redick. J.J. Redick playing a two-man game with Joel Embiid, where Embiid would roll. J.J. Redick would come off to that right hand, one of the best shooters, if not clutch shooters, in those situations. So if you're going to ask me about the 76ers, even though they got better defensively, I like Horford, I like Richardson, I like them even keeping Ben Simmons and taking care of the young fella. They aren't even close.
Let me ask you something, and I know this. I know these are relative terms when it comes to your NBA career, but were you a better offensive or defensive player?
Defensive.
Why is it that so many people, even who were defensive players or pay lip service to defense, when it comes down to it, really don't believe in it? J.J. Redick is a hell of an offensive player. He can shoot the lights out, and not just shoot. For a guy who can shoot, he can do other things. But when you take total value, you bring in a guy like Josh Richardson who can play two ways. He can't shoot like Redick, but he can shoot. And he can play. What are you looking over here? Look over here. Don't worry about it.
You looking for help?
I hear your nonsense. You looking for help? You looking for?
I don't need no help.
And Josh Richardson can play defense, and he's ascending. He's in his physical prime. That's one. Two, when you talk about big three, Tobias Harris is a nice offensive player who does not play defense. He looks like he should, but he doesn't.
Can you stop saying that?
When you say,
watch this man play defense all year long.
When you talk about big three that does not exist on the Sixers, if it did, it would be Al Horford, who's coming off a bad season, but played in the playoffs several times in his career, like Hall of Fame caliber when you needed it most. My point is this: the Sixers are contenders, Ogden and Mirrodich.
That's the point.
And the Sixers are one of the most vicious defensive squads in the league.
They can most certainly make it to the finals. The problem with the other side is that they might have to beat one of the better, more talented teams in the West. There's nobody more talented than them in the East. And the Brogdon and Mirotic thing, that's a big deal to me because the Raptors got worse. Obviously, the Bucks have gotten worse. And so I'm going to go back to the original comments that we had from Charles Barkley because, frankly, I respect his opinion a lot more than I respect either one of yours when it comes to basketball. And Charles Barkley said that if those guys can get better, then they have a shot. I believe that if someone is going to tell them, they don't need someone in the organization to tell Embiid to lose weight. They don't need someone to tell Ben Simmons to shoot more. They know it. We've all been talking about it. Anyone who knows anything about basketball knows that Ben Simmons needs to work on his shot, and everyone knows that Joel Embiid couldn't really hold up throughout the course of the playoffs. These are things that they know, and I guarantee you they're tired of hearing it. And my belief is that those guys are working on that, and shooting is something that, I mean, he's not going to go from being the non-shooter that he is, Ben Simmons that is, to being a J.J. Redick level shooter since his name was invoked, but he can get better. And I think that those
and everyone else on the starting five can shoot well enough.
Right, and they can shoot well enough around, including Embiid, while he stays on the outside a little bit too much for everyone else's liking, but he can shoot when it comes down to it. The one question I have for them is the one that I know you're going to bring up is about Jimmy Butler closing games. They don't have a guy who can close games necessarily. I think Ben Simmons can grow into that if he can develop a respectable shot.
When you say close games, guys, do you mean a guy who off the bounce can hit a shot? Like, what do you mean? Because close games, sometimes the better team just wins.
I understand what you're saying. It seems like
Stop. Can I jump right in? The one thing about what Barkley said, There were a lot of ifs. If Ben Simmons had a jump shot, if Giannis had a jump shot, it would be over.
Tell me a team that there's not a lot of ifs for. There's a lot of ifs for everybody.
Milwaukee Bucks.
There's a ton of ifs.
Milwaukee
There's
Bucks.
even ifs for the best team in the West.
So check this
right?
out.
Everybody.
No. The Milwaukee Bucks. So check this out. When we look at the Eastern Conference, we win with stars. Stars close games. Stars make plays in the biggest moments, whether it's NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, whatever it may be. Yes, you need the team. So they're physical enough. If you go 1 through 15, they can compete with anybody. That's not the question. No LeBron in the East, no Kawhi, no KD for a year. Giannis is that dude. And guess what? If you want to say they got worse, Malcolm Brogdon missed almost the entire end of the season and the playoffs. And my man, Mirotic didn't even play against Toronto.
This is a problem when I come on the show, is I actually remember the things that you say. You talked about last year that the Bucks weren't going to go deep because Giannis couldn't close.
Absolutely.
So that's the biggest if of all. If we're talking about people having an inability to close, so now Giannis figured out how to close games?
No, forgive me, the bigger if is with Ben Simmons. And guess what? Joel Embiid is the best big man in basketball. So the question,
he didn't hear me. He didn't answer.
Hold on.
No, I said a bigger if as far as closing games is
you
with
think
Ben Simmons.
Here's the real problem. You think the better, and I know the Bucks got worse because Brogdon was arguably the second best player on the team, and Mirotic never really became the piece they thought he could be because he was hurt when he got there and it was late in the season. But heading into this season, I was shocked by Mirotic going back to Europe. I thought Mirotic had the chance to be an all-star. He's a better player than people realize. Quick feet, great shot, quick release, the whole thing.
You don't like D'Angelo Russell's an all-star, but Mirotic could have been all-star.
Hold up. Both those guys are gone. Now, I think the Sixers ascended, especially given the defense in their starting five. They took the Toronto Raptors with Kawhi. The limit. Kawhi had to hit one of the most clutch shots in the history of basketball, a low percentage shot, in order to get by a Sixers team that I think just got better.
I want to bring something else up. We talk
real quick. Let me help you guys here.
Help us.
Forgive me. The NBA that I started in, it was one with big men. Every roster would have 6 to 7
did you just say the
power
NBA
forwards.
and you started?
Absolutely. Mac, do your research. Listen,
starting?
You would have 6 or 7.
His career.
I'm sorry. I wasn't sure.
I will. We can play one-on-one, Max. You too. And you. Hey. And we can.
Why would I do that? That's stupid.
Exactly. So don't make the stupid comments. So I say that to say, you won with bigs, you won with defense, and then you had one star. You had a Jordan, you had a Kobe, you had those guys, a LeBron, whatever, that would go out and make plays. Now you do win in the NBA with versatility, with scoring. You've got to be able to score in the 120s and the 110s in these big playoff situations. Why do I bring up Kawhi Leonard as it pertains to Giannis? This was the only man in the league who could actually stay in front of him. And when I compare him to Ben Simmons, he's more equipped to close, although I would take him over LeBron, over KD.
Wait, who's more equipped to close?
Giannis
because
over
he can shoot.
Ben Simmons.
Because he can shoot.
And Jimmy Butler's on the roster.
But in fact, Simmons got better handles than Giannis. Like, Simmons can take you in the half court to the basket better than Giannis.
The problem is that Ben becomes completely ineffective in the playoffs because at least Giannis, he can do different things dynamically.
But hold on. Embiid last year played the next thing to MVP level and was in tears after the finals, after the playoffs, where he came that close to defeating the ultimate champions. If Embiid takes a step forward, that's now an MVP player. If Simmons takes a step forward, both things are likely given their age and trajectory. That's now a definite all-star. And you add to that a two-way player like
Embiid
Richardson.
is already the best
Harris,
big man.
they got
He was the best big man in the entire NBA last year.
Right.
And they couldn't win. You don't win. Listen, I played
they
center
came that
league,
close.
and you don't win with centers right now.
But they came that close.
Well, you don't win with centers that like you. You win with centers like Embiid. I mean,
like I said, we can play ones any day, and I'll put your little butt in the rim. I'll put you in the rim while you're doing that.
You're a better basketball player than me.
You get put in the rim. Okay, well, don't run your mouth.
The point is, we gotta wrap up this conversation.
The point
Max, on the have gotten better. Last season, Sixers' offensive efficiency with Embiid, Harris, and Simmons on the court together would be the best for any three-man lineup
offensive
for a full
efficiency
season in the NBA.
But
offensive
Jimmy Butler's
efficiency.
All right, well, we got to
on
wrap
that
things
team.
up there. We're going to take another timeout.
You don't
But
win with
coming up
bigs.
next, NBA free agency. It is winding down. But which team will regret their off-season moves? That is coming up next right here.